Good morning, everyone. I hope this comes across okay. I've spent ages here this morning trying to fight with the light because there's so much sun and so much sunlight. I've had to shut curtains and do all sorts of things. So hopefully the video will be clear. As promised, the purpose of this, and I'm going to make a couple of these videos around this assessment. The reason I'm going to make a couple is I try and keep them short so you don't have to listen for too long. So I want to give you some further guidance around the Merry Health assessment. And what I will do for each of your major pieces of work, I'll do videos just like this that will hopefully guide you. Now, when I say I'm making these videos, that doesn't mean that I'm not happy to take as many questions as possible. In fact, what I've found in the past is that when I load up these videos, that does stimulate lots of questions, which is fantastic. So please remember, it's an online subject, but I'm here to help, and I'm really keen to do that. So the purpose of this assessment is for you to think laterally about a presentation for a board of directors. So I sit on a couple of health boards, and at every monthly meeting we have a number of staff do presentations just like this to inform our governance role. So what we're doing with this assessment is we're trying to make this really realistic to something you may have to do in the workplace. It would have been really easy to just set an assessment that asks you to write an essay that explained the theory and evidence for self-management, but it's designed to get you to think about how you can take a big report like the Sverrisson and Duckett report and pick out the really important pieces out of that and target that to a particular audience. So in this video, in this first one, I'm going to cover 3 important tips. So the first one is to really read the question really carefully. So you need to brief the board of directors of Merry Health. It's really important to think about the audience. So you need to check out the rubric and realise that this assessment is not just an exercise in summarising the key points of the Sverrisson and Duckett report. You need to tailor your work to the audience. So the main things to think about, and this is what I would do if I was starting it. What does a board of directors do? So you need to be really clear about what a board is and what a board isn't. You need to be really clear about their roles and responsibilities. And this is important in thinking about the types of information that would be important for their role. Again, targeting to the audience. Think about the board's governance role. So generally, boards of health services have 3 major governance roles. They have a financial responsibility to govern the organisation and ensure its financial sustainability. They have a clinical oversight, and that is to ensure that the clinical governance processes for the organisation are all correct, and to monitor those. And community, which is about the engagement of the organisation with the community. The board sets the strategic direction for the organisation, and the CEO reports to the board. So the Chief Executive Officer reports to the board, and operational functions of the organisation are delegated by the CEO. So what that actually means is that the board appoints the CEO. The board then passes or delegates responsibilities to run the organisation to the CEO. But when the board of directors meets, that's the conduit between what's happening at an operational level and what's happening at a strategic level. So I think what you need to do is start with Googling about the role of boards, so you are super clear on what sort of information the board would be interested in at their level. And really think about they're at a governance level, not an operational level. So then what I would do is I would check who currently sits on the Merry Health board. What is their background? So I'd visit the Merry Health website and read about the directors so you are really clear about the audience. Who is it that you're preparing information for? Now, when you go on to the website of Merry Health, you will see that they have a diverse range of skills, and many of the board, the directors of the Merry Health, don't have any health background. So that gives you a really big trigger for what your information and how it needs to be targeted. So you need to think about the fact that the directors come from a broad range of backgrounds, and how will you tailor your presentation to ensure that you're providing the information they would need in their governance role. So the second point I want to give you is the Sverrisson and Duckett report provides broad information on chronic conditions. Now, what you have to remember is the Board of Merry Health are going to be focused on their community. So the second thing that you need to think about is how would you contextualise the information for the Merry Health Board so it's relevant to the activity that they do in their service. So the second thing I would be doing in preparing for this assessment is finding out where Merry Health is located. What are the demographics of the Merry Health community? Now, there is extensive data available at the local community level. Again, I'm replicating what you would do if you were doing this sort of presentation to a board. You really need to think about, as you tailor it, who's the audience, but also think about how you can tailor a big report like the Sverrisson and Duckett report to a particular geographic or community context, because they're not going to be interested in all of that report. So a good place to start might be geographical profiles, and they're available from the Victorian State Government. Now, I've put together some notes for this presentation because I know that some students like to listen, some like to read. So if you click on the notes that I've got directly under this presentation, if you are watching this, you'll see the links to the reports that I'm talking about. So the link that I've put in the document, so there's really useful data on all Victorian communities. It's a reporting and planning data site that I've given you from the Victorian Government. Now, it will provide you heaps of information about the Merry Health community. So you can start thinking about, how can I take what I've read in the Sverrisson and Duckett report? How can I identify the really important pieces of information? And how can I tailor those to the interest level of the board of directors of that organisation? So if you identify the catchment area of Merry Health and look at the demographic data for the LGA, so you need to figure out, where does Merry Health sit? Which LGA or LGAs, local government areas, does that sit in? What does it tell you about the most likely chronic condition priorities for the board? And you might want to use some of this data in your presentation. So what you'll be able to do, if you use the links that I've provided you, you'll be able to identify what are the likely, the most important chronic condition issues for the Merry Health catchment, and that'll enable you to tailor it really well for that board. So there's some really useful data at sites such as the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and so I've given you a link to that in the notes. And you need to make sure you click on the Census tab, because on that site there's some really useful quick stats, and that's where you can search by postcode. So if you work out the postcode of Merry Health, so what are the postcodes that the Merry Health catchment includes, and what data can you find by searching by postcode, what you'll find is some really great hints about what the board might find interesting from this. So it's really about being able to draw from what you can find out about Merry Health and the board, and what you can find out from the Sverrisson Duckett report, and bringing those together, if that makes sense. So can you find any community profile information from the Primary Health Network or the Primary Care Partnership, the PCP, in the Merry Health catchment area? Again, this is some of the research that I'm getting you to do. Find out, where's the Merry Health catchment area? What is the Primary Health Network that would cover that catchment? Or the Primary Care Partnership, the PCP. Sorry, that's my email flicking in. I meant to turn it off. I'll just turn it off now so you don't get dinging as it comes in. So have a look at, Merry Health. Where does it sit in the Primary Health Network catchment? Where does it sit in the Primary Care partnership, which catchment. And if you look at both of those, both the Primary Health Network and the PCP that would have responsibility for the Merri Health catchment, you might find things like community profile reports that also might be really, really important and really interesting for you to look at. So, the third key point that I'm going to give you today is to look carefully at the current activity of Merri Health. You can get a lot of information from their website. So, the things that I would go looking for would be their strategic plan and their quality of care report. Again, what I'm trying to do is get you to mimic the sort of process that you would go through if you were a health professional or a manager, or you held some sort of a role within an organisation. You would need to figure out, what are all of the bits of information that I need to actually really tailor that presentation? So, if you actually have a look at Merri Health, is there evidence of interprofessional practice? Now, what I'm getting at here is, of course, Sverrisson and Duckett highlight the importance of interprofessional practice. Is there evidence on the Merri Health website of integrated services and interprofessional practice in key Merri Health documents? Now, once you go looking for that and see what you can find out there, you might want to tailor your information to the board about key things that are directly related to that organisation. And I think what I'm trying to do in this first presentation, the main message that I want you to take away from this, is that you can't include every bit of information from the Sverrisson and Duckett report. You need to really figure out what's really important, or what might be important for that board of directors. So hopefully this first one is clear, and I'll make another video for you now where I'll provide a little bit more information about actually putting it together. So I hope you're having a great day. As I said, it's absolutely gorgeous here. Hopefully the flashing lights from the sun coming through are not too bad. So I'll talk to you again in a minute. So take care. See ya.